So now we'll be going over information for the parent and the parent tax return. For 2012, they'll want to know, has they already filed their tax returns? Will they file them, or are they not required by law? So if you say will file, then you're going to be estimating the income and the information now, and you'll be required after your taxes are done to go back and change that question from will file to did file and update the information directly from the 1040s. They're going to ask the type of tax return that your parents filed. Most people file a 1040, although there's also 1040As and EZs. If your parents lived in another country, they would say that they had a foreign tax return and then convert all of the income into dollars. And then for the next question, they'll be asking you if your parents were eligible to file a 1040A or EZ. The quick and easy answer to that is if they make more than $50,000, if they own their own business or they own their own home, then chances are they are not eligible to file. But you could always just say that you don't know. Then they're going to also ask if, as of today, are either the parents a dislocated worker. To be a dislocated worker, that means that you had a job in 2012 and you lost your job, or you reduced your hours. If you don't know, then you should check with your parents to see what the answer to that question is. And then you would go on and say, what is the adjusted gross income? You're going to be estimating that right now. But you'll see on the left-hand side that once you actually do have the tax forms in hand, they'll tell you if you filed the line 1040, then you're going to be looking at line 37. If you filed the 1040A, then you'll be looking at line 21. And if you filed the 1040EZ form, you'll be looking at line 4. So if you have the tax forms there, you know exactly which line you're supposed to put the information in each one. The next question they're actually going to ask you, the amount of taxes that your parents paid. This is not the amount of taxes that was withheld, but the amount that they actually ended up paying to the government. And then they're going to ask about exemptions. Exemptions are usually the number of people that are claimed on a tax return. So if you are claimed as part of your parents' tax return, they would add your number here. But this student above already indicated that they were claiming themselves on their own tax return, so it would probably just be 2 people on the tax return. And then now you're going to actually break out how much income the father earned and how much income the mother earned. Those 2 incomes combined have to equal the amount of the adjusted gross income. The next question after that will be in terms of the total balance of cash, savings, and checking account. So you have to answer this truthfully as of today, but it's also important that if you got paid on the 1st and you're going to pay all of your bills on the 2nd, you probably want to wait until the 3rd to make sure that you can put a true and accurate information in there that really reflects your financial status. And then they want to know if your parents have any kind of investments. They do not mean the home if you own your own home. It just means if you have other investments, including real estate. They also want to know if you have a family business of more than 100 people, you need to put that information in there as well. And then they want to know all these other questions. Did they do any education credits? Did they pay any child support? Any kind of taxable incomes through grants and scholarships listed on their taxes, combat pay, all these other questions. So answer the questions if they actually pertain to the parent. If not, then you can either leave them blank or put zeros in them. And then in terms of these questions, how many people are in the parent's student household? The student household is always considered 1 and 1 if they're actually living and considered a dependent on their parents. They would list in terms of if they had any kind of federal benefits that were listed below, in terms of social selective supplemental security income, food stamps, or none of the above. And then they want to know if the student is a dislocated worker. You'll also be selecting your college because you want to list every single college you applied to make sure that they get your dream application as well. So for San Francisco State, we'd start out writing CSU and see all of the different CSUs that come up. And then you would just indicate your school that you want to list on the dream application. Make sure that you actually list every single CSU independently. So right now we'll be listing San Francisco State. And if you're applying to other CSUs, you would just go ahead and add those as well. You'll see below that they've actually been added below. San Diego State too, so you can see below that they're added. And then they want you to add your housing selection plan. So just go ahead and put in save your application. So they want you to save your application. Just go to the bottom and save your application, and then we'll just go back and finish up the very little bit that we have to finish. So hit save. It's going to tell you that it's successfully saved, and then you can just go back to the question that you had previously. they want you to save it in case anything were to happen with your computer. You would have the information all on file. So now you're going to go back to the bottom of the page where you're answering your questions, and we're going to go back to the question in terms of the housing selection. So you need to say whether you'll be living with your parents, away from home, in your own apartment, or on campus in the dormitories. And then just continue on. And at this point, we're almost done. They will want you to read that, which says, by clicking submit below, I affirm the information on this application is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, and that it'll be under the penalty of perjury if I were to lie. So you just click that. You read through these proceedings information saying that you won't use your financial aid, only except to pay for school. You're not in default in any other area. And then you can go ahead and click the, I would encourage you at that point, now that you've saved the application, you'll be brought to this page. So the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and add the parent signature. So if you click on the parent signature, what they're going to ask you for is to put in your parent's name, their birthday, and their name, their birth date, and their wages. So you want to make sure that you remember that. But to make sure that they link it with your application, first you're going to put in the year that you're doing it for, which is 13-14, whether they're your mother or your father. And you're going to be, right now for the first time, you're going to be actually requesting a PIN. So you're selecting your purpose would be to request a parent PIN, because you don't have a parent PIN. If you already have yours, you would then actually just be submitting the application. But we're going to go on and put in your student information so they know to link it to your application. So put in your name, your first name, your last name, your date of birth, and your email address. And then you're going to actually, that will allow you to obtain a parent PIN. And you're going to use that parent PIN. That's not the end of it. You still need to go back and actually submit the application with the parent PIN. So after you put in your name, your date of birth, your zip code, and your email address, and then you're going to hit continue, and that should allow you to see what the parent PIN will be. So going down, scrolling down, they want to make sure that you're going to now put in your father's name, your father's last name, your father's date of birth, and your father's wages. So if you don't remember this exactly, you should actually stop at this point, go back to the DREAM application and confirm this information. But if you know it, then just go ahead and put it in there. And then you're going to put in the wages, the exact wages, not the adjusted gross income, but the wages that your father earned. And then hit continue. And this will allow you to actually obtain a parent PIN. Uh-oh, it doesn't match what's in our records. So you want to verify the information and try again. So just go ahead and, if you remember it, then you can go ahead and put it in again. If you need to go back, then you would just go back to home, sign into your application, and then review that information for a second time. So it's not a new application at this point. We'll actually be going in and retrieving your application. So you put in your name and your password. If you ever forget your name or your user ID, your password, you can just click on that blue link below. They'll ask you your challenge question, and then they'll allow you to they'll email you your username or your password. Invalid login. Having a little bit of trouble here. Remember that the password has to be a certain amount in length, and that the user ID has uppercase and lowercase numbers. So now that we log in, we're going back to our 13-14 academic year, and we're going to go directly to the area where the parent information is, so that we can go ahead and see what the parent birth date is, what the parent address is, the parent's birth date, wages, and name. So we can look and see the father's birth date is 2/2/1954. His name is Doe. And the income, you can just confirm the income going down a little bit further. the income going down, you'll see that the income for the parent was listed as $6,000. So now going back home, you can just click back, or go ahead and resubmit the application. It'll bring you to the same place. And now you're going to actually go again and provide the parent's signature. So it's been successfully submitted. Now you're going to go up to the top and say parent signature. And again, we're going to put in the name. Well, you're going to select your year, the relationship for your parent to you, whether it's your mother or your father, and if you're going to be actually submitting the application or requesting a PIN. Now you're going to go ahead and put in student information, your last name, your first name, your date of birth, your zip code, and your email address. So it's important that all this information line up exactly, because this is how they're going to match your applications. And as you see from before, if it doesn't match up exactly, they won't let you proceed. So after you put in your email address, then you're going to just hit continue and go down further. And they're going to ask you, this is now where they're going to ask you again for your father's last name, your father's date of birth, and your father's wages. So just put in his date of birth exactly as you had it on the application, exactly as it is, and then put the wages in exactly as it was on the application. Now hit continue, and it should produce a parent PIN. So once you submit the parent's name, date of birth, and wages, you'll come up with your PIN, which you see right here on the bottom. Then you're just going to go ahead and write that down. It's very important that you remember that PIN, hit continue, and then you're now actually going to submit the parent. So if you click you're going to click and submit signature electronically, have your parents read this, saying that they know that they're certifying that all the information is true and correct, and then go ahead and submit the signature. Congratulations, you have successfully completed your application. Now what you want to do is just go back and look at the confirmation page. So go to the third option, actually retrieve your application, and at this point you want to go ahead and look at the confirmation page, because this is the page that's going to let you know exactly where you are in terms of other information that you might need to provide. So go ahead and put in your ID and password again. You're going to log in a final time, log in, and then go for your 13-14 application year. And then see where it says click this link, nope, up at the very top. Click this link to view the DREAM application confirmation page. So click on that, and it's going to tell you any actions you must do now. So anything in red, these are issues you need to do right away. Looks like you've successfully submitted your application, so there's no other actions that you need to do right now. If you're submitting it to a California State University, you want to check the financial aid office at the financial school that you're going to by the end of March or early April. And that concludes our lesson of how to successfully complete your application.